Hey everyone, welcome back to AsArt. This is the last installment in our Netflix Witcher series. We're going to be talking about the last two episodes as well as wrapping up the season as a whole. So, as always, I'm John and this is Nick. And so, Nick, first time experience with The Witcher. We've gone through the series now. What do you think and where do you think it's going?
I think it dropped to 5.5.
So, you had it at what did you have before, like a 6.5 or a 7? You said if you were being nice.
Yeah.
So, you feel like it's gone downhill?
Yeah, I just think it's, I want it to be good. I'm a fantasy guy deep down inside. Like all the shows, all my favorite movies are all fantasy. I love fantasy. I love the worlds that are created. I love everything about just magic and all that fun stuff. And it was just tough for me to get into, I think, story wise and all that. But we don't have to do a recap of the whole thing right now. Let's just dive into the last two episodes. Like let's
of course.
So
so you just felt it got worse as it was going along the last two episodes.
Yes. I wasn't a fan of the big battle at the end, where like all the sorcerers get together, they like team up to go and they fight, and they all lose against one sorcerer. I don't understand how that happens, but and then basically the best fighter and most entertaining fighter, the most entertaining fighter to watch on screen is our boy, the Witcher, right? And he's on the back of a cart. And I was like, man, this is how I feel. I just feel like I can't do anything but watch the show right now. Like, I want to help it. I want to change it. Useless. I can't. I'm getting flashbacks of my mother, I guess.
So it was... But it was kind of a funny thing they did. And honestly, I almost feel like that was sorry, I want to come back to what you're saying, but him on the back of the cart, the very first game in the game series starts off with him unconscious on the back of a cart, almost the exact same framing. And he comes out of that not being able to remember his past. So it's not like the game, but I almost feel like that was almost like a tribute or like a fan service to that. Yeah. But yeah, it's, you know what? We always wonder about like a great character. I'm not saying The Witcher's a great character, but a great character, you always wonder what's their back. Like Han Solo, we always wonder what's his backstory. But sometimes just wondering about it is better than actually knowing it. So honestly, I feel like seeing his mom, like now I'm wondering, is she a sorceress? Why did she leave? Like those are all questions that we didn't really need answered at all or even needed to address. And it kind of took us away from the story at hand. The only thing I trying to think of this from an artistic standpoint and a story standpoint, what I kind of took away from that is like, okay, maybe he wants acceptance by a sorceress, or he wants acceptance because he's drawn to sorcerers because his mom was a sorceress or something, because it seems like that's what they were trying to draw from that. So he has this void that he's trying to fill, like Yennefer's trying to fill because of their experiences when they were younger. But it just seemed out of place and kind of took us away from what we needed to be like a very, strong last episode. And it's not that I didn't like it, but it felt odd to me. So anyway, so you were talking about the whole mom thing.
Well, yeah, I just thought it was so random. But then like he's obviously, because they're like going through the fog or whatever, and it almost is like you can hear the fighting in the background.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, like he's trying to fight or whatever. And the guy's like, sit down. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like it's so frustrating. But like, it would have been better instead of having him just where he's incapable of fighting. I think it would have been better if he was still like moving and stuff. And like, he like saw the person he loves or whatever in danger and he wants to go help. But then like he looks over to the left and maybe Ciri's in danger too. And he has to like pick which way to go kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like which destiny, because he has destiny on the left hand side and then he has his genie in the bottle wish on the other. Maybe he's to like always be connected to her. I don't know. I'm spitballing. I'm totally spitballing. And then you have like destiny and then you have like his wish. And he's like torn between the two and then he hobbles to there. But then it gives a moment like which we kind of see where the sorceress kind of becomes the best of the best. I mean, where she's able to stand up for herself and stuff. I don't know. But like, you know, at least I think if there was like something where he had to choose, not just like, and then he wakes up, he's like, I'm in a forest. Oh, yes, there was that one prophecy in the first episode that we all forgot about. Oh, yes, that one, yeah, in the forest or whatever. It's just like, gosh, man. Just like, I think even if it would have been something where he was like running and hobbling, or you know what I mean? And if he has to fight, but then she uses his power and he's like, oh, something is special with her. Or you know what I mean? Or something like that to end the series. Or like, what if he wasn't affected by her power? or something weird like that. It's like, whoa, we're connected by destiny, or something where it's more than just like running in the woods and be like, oh my gosh, we're so connected. And then she's like, who's this girl? It's like, oh my God.
Well, so the thing that threw me off, again, I'm trying to view it from a story standpoint. The thing that kind of threw me off is that she gives him I'm assuming that really happened. It's not him hallucinating. She just looks at him and gives him a hug. Like she never met him, right?
Yeah. But
she didn't even know who he was.
Sort of power.
I'm guessing. She has power, but she doesn't know how to control it. She doesn't know what he looks like. Maybe maybe in her dream she saw him. Is that what happened? She saw him in her dream because she said, "Who's Yennefer?" So maybe she saw him in the dream, and that's how she knew it was him.
What if she saw someone else in the dream, like the person that wants to kill her? He's like, "Oh, I saw you in my dream. You must be a decent person."
But you know what? As weird as it was to have him on a cart the whole episode, I did like they were giving us a view of what it's like for the common folk that are away from the war, away from the castles. These two people just living out in their own, and they're like, you know what? It's happening, but there's no reason for them to bother us. Like we're not important enough. If I die, the woman was saying to Siri, if I died today, it wouldn't be an exciting life, but I'd be fulfilled. And so I thought that was kind of cool. They did that, like as far as like from the human standpoint. So I see why they did it, but it was kind of weird that they still didn't, at the end of this episode, they still didn't cross over at all until the very, very end with Geralt and Ciri.
It was
maybe the backstory.
It's even so pathetic how he got bit. I don't know. It's just it was such a waste he even stood there.
Well, that's the thing that I was like, why did he stick around to fight them? He told the guy to leave, and maybe he was protecting him, but I don't know. That was kind of weird. Yeah.
It was very awkward. I don't know. I was just like, this is stupid. Like, if they wrote that in just so he can be on the back of a cart, useless. Like that's just like, this is stupid.
I guess
like,
so.
I just want stuff to help the story. Like, I don't care what happens as long as it helps progress the story and character building. Then I feel like it's worth it. That's why, like, we didn't really get a character building moment from him in the back of the cart at all. I mean, we got a little bit of a backstory, but nothing where it's like character build. I don't know. Is it just me, guys? Is it just me?
So I think the roughest episodes for me were probably 4 and 5, and that was coming off of the good episode 3 that I think we both liked. So 4 and 5 were the hardest for me. By the end of 6, I was kind of. It still felt a little bit soap opera-y a little bit, but then I was starting to care about the characters a little bit more. These last episodes didn't bother me at all, but at the same time, again, it's impossible to not draw parallels to Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings because it's just high fantasy type stuff. So did I like them as much as those things? Well, no. But at the same time, does it mean I didn't like it? Oh, no, I still liked it. Am I looking forward for season 2? Honestly, I think season 2 might end up being a lot better because we're finally at a spot where the timelines hopefully aren't going to be jumping back and forth as much. I mean, I'm sure they're going to part ways and come back just like, the Bard and stuff, where he's going to come back in. But hopefully Ciri and Geralt, we won't have to jump multiple times every episode back and forth between them. Yeah, Yennefer's not in the picture yet, so we might have to track her down. But it seems like right now, at least, season 2, we're not trying to get all these characters established and in the same, because it seemed like they did have to rush through the season to get them in the same playing field at the same time. So now that they are, season 2 might actually be a much better season if the story material is there, which again, I don't know how much they're using from the novels and how much they have to draw from. Do you feel like it feels more like a novel that's not been adapted for the screen? Do you think that's what's bothering you? Do you think it's just the story choices they made? I mean, and again, I like it. I mean, it's not great. Like if I had to rate it, like you rated it earlier, I'd rate it like a 7 out of 10. Like it's a C, it's good enough to where I'd be happy to watch it. It was competent, but it just, we're comparing it to like A+ rated films and series.
This is Netflix though. Netflix has some good shows. They also have some really crappy shows.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask you. I haven't watched a whole lot of Netflix series.
They got some good and they got some really
Some of them my friends have tried to get me into, especially like fantasy sci-fi. Like the Marvel stuff I thought looked kind of lame a little bit. And maybe I'm wrong because I haven't seen like the Luke Cage, the Flash or whatever. Right? So, but that's like...
Flash is CW.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've seen stuff on Netflix and my friends try to get me into it. I'm just like, I'm just not into it.
Daredevil's good. Punisher's good. Jessica Jones is good. Those are some good... good series right there. But,
would you say the production qualities and budget on those was higher than The Witcher, or do you think?
I think because The Witcher was fantasy. No, I think fantasy the budget's automatically higher because so much, like because Daredevil takes place in a modern city, and
okay.
like they wear the costumes as practical, and it's since he doesn't have superpowers really other than super hearing, a lot of it's just hand to hand combat. So it's there's
so let me
probably a
reword
lower
that then.
budget.
The production values. Do you think the production value was any higher or lower than the other Netflix series, like those ones we're talking
felt
about?
lower, but it's probably just because there was more visual effects shots though. Because like
Okay.
if you think about it, like this, like all the visual effects shots in this probably like tripled what they would do in a Daredevil.
Yeah.
Probably.
And you know what? I know you love to rip on the visual effects in this. I don't think they're that bad. They're not like Lord of the Rings. They're not Game of Thrones, but I didn't think they were that bad. Now, and this is maybe an important parallel or like a thing to compare is the early Game of Thrones seasons did not have the crazy visual effects we got in the later seasons. So if they were,
I think what helps is was on set, on location. A lot of it was.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So you can tell a lot of this stuff was probably on sound stages, and I mean, obviously they're not going to build huts and cottages and stuff out there. But you know what? I mean, I loved the color grading. I thought overall the look was pretty cool. The sound, I couldn't say. I thought it was fine. The music was okay. The music was kind of similar to the games, or at least the third one, which is not my favorite music, but it was fine. I thought it was totally competent. It's just not. I think we had too high of expectations. I think.
Oh, maybe because we just came off of Watchmen too. But like
yeah.
his Dark Materials is so good too. Yeah. Like everything with like the landscaping, and there's a lot of effects in his Dark Materials, like because the buildings aren't like modern too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful prop works in his Dark Materials too. Like, and I know it's BBC and HBO, so that's just like shut up and take my money kind of money. You know what I mean? Like they got like the two biggest people that shove money at it. But still, I just feel like, I don't know. I'm curious what studios worked on it too. I mean, we should have looked that up to see what studios.
That'd be a fun thing to look up as well.
See their reels and like past work before doing this stuff too, because it felt very B to me, like B quality movie stuff. I don't know.
B as in boy, like, you said, or do you say D as in dog?
B as in boy, like a B.
Which is nothing wrong with that too. Some of my favorite movies are B movies.
No, that's fine, but the story helps those movies a lot.
So that's, I think, if you're looking at his Dark Materials and you're looking at this, I think the big difference, probably HBO, and like you said, it probably has more money overall. But his Dark Materials, it seems like, I really think, and this is just my thought, I know I mentioned this in other episodes, I think the biggest thing is that they didn't know how many seasons they were going to get, and so they had to try and, hey, we're giving you 6 seasons, and we're going to let you just develop it at a nice, even pace, I don't think we would have been rushed to get Yennefer and Ciri and Geralt all in the same place at the same time as quickly as we did. And I think a whole season to develop Yennefer going through the trials and becoming this, beautiful woman, powerful sorceress, I think would have been awesome. Having Geralt, just more time on him in general. If you weren't as rushed with Yennefer, you would have had more time for Geralt. And with Ciri, again, the same thing. You have more time because we really did have at least 3 different timelines going on in Game of Thrones, and they didn't feel rushed, and they were the same length in episodes, right? So they definitely can do it, but how far? It's like the big complaints I think you and I had with Game of Thrones. We loved the series, but it felt like the last 2 seasons were rushed. They tried to get to where they needed to go very quickly, especially as far as resolution and having things wrapped up. I feel like season 1 was almost like that for The Witcher, where it was kind of rushed along. That's maybe why I'm more hopeful for season 2, because now they have them in the places they want them, and maybe they can take it at a more gradual pace, or at least not cut back and forth as much. That's just my thoughts. Like, I have a few articles. Go ahead.
What was the second to last episode about again?
The second to last, man. We could have a whole discussion another time just about how Disney Plus and HBO versus Netflix, the binge thing, because I can't really separate the episodes when I'm watching them 2 or 3 at a time. They just kind of merge together, which can be good, but it can also be bad.
So what happens before the battle? Is it mostly like the whole thing where she's going back to the council of the?
Yeah, I think it was planning on that. Yeah, I think that's what it mostly was.
What was happening with the Witcher
with Geralt? Yeah, with Geralt, see that's not a good sign when you can't remember story beats. It's
exactly.
Not a good sign.
Set you up for that one, John. 5.5. I'm just joking. I'm joking, John. It was a joke. I'm just messing. But like I hate how like they have these like awesome sorcerers that come with them, right? But we have no attachment to any of them. And the only attachment we have is to her teacher, I guess. If there's any attachment, I have no attachment to her at all. But like, she's like our attachment.
There's a little bit of a relationship
she's about
there.
to die. I don't think she even dies. The one that the one person we do have attachment to doesn't die. Oh no, we have attachment to the other girl, the one that saved him in episode 3, his life. Which you remember when he was bleeding on the neck. Originally she was a
Tris. Yeah,
like we have attachment to her. I take that back. But like
passive,
everyone else is so like disposable. Like they walked in with 50 of these supposedly like wizards that are supposed to be decent levels, and they can't beat this one.
I like how you said levels like it's a game.
It felt like a video game.
Nerd.
Kind of, but like, do you think that dude with the sword is going to go bad?
No, I think he was going off to try and help. I mean, that's.
Oh, I'm like, for some reason, when I saw him after he got up, I'm like, I think he's a bad dude. I don't know. We'll see season 2. That's another prediction. I think that guy's a bad guy.
So, you know what? I think my biggest concern, it seems like Netflix does drop a lot of series after a few seasons. I know a lot of the Marvel stuff was because they didn't have extensions with Disney, right? Disney wanted them to pay a huge license to continue the shows. And they said, no, we're not paying that. And so they're probably going to switch over to Disney Plus. It seems like a lot of Netflix series do get canceled, though. I think they had a list for 2019 on an article I read, and like over 10 series were canceled on Netflix in 2019. And some of them were Marvel, obviously, some more than usual. But my worry is that, and this is why I usually don't watch shows, until you got me into these, is I want to see them all the way through. I want to see them to a conclusion. This is getting like a pretty rough review from a lot of people.
What? I haven't read any yet.
Fans, let me reword it. From audiences, it's getting 75, 78, somewhere around there. From critics, it's getting very low scores.
Even lower than mine?
I mean, around yours, or maybe some a little bit higher, a good number lower. But
I'm being rough with it, everyone. I'm a little over the top right now. Like, I don't think it's like that bad, but it's bad. Like for example, they bring the army over the hill at the end of the episode, and nothing happens. Like, what's the point
you just
of the
saw
army
them come
arriving?
up there and nothing happened. Yeah, nothing happened.
Okay,
after that.
It's like in Lord of the Rings, like, ride with me the other way. It's like,
well, the only thing I can think of that having that shot of them coming up is, okay, now we know at least that area is secure. We don't need to see the other enemy forces running off. Okay, they have enough people that we know they're fine now.
It was just so weird because we zoomed in on the king dude. We're like, oh, yeah, that's that one dude. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so.
Oh, you know what? I think that was King Foltest, right? He's like, King Foltest will show up. So I think he plays a big role. He was
episode 3.
Oh, see in episode 3? I forgot.
Yeah, he was the brother. Remember the king, the brother dude?
Oh, was that King? I didn't realize he was King Foltest. Oh, that's right. That's King Foltest. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's King Foltest.
But like, it's just like makes no sense. I was just like, what's gonna happen?
So. Nick is like, oh my gosh.
Sorry. It's just like so frustrating.
So if I look at it from what I did like about it, I really liked I thought the matte paintings were fat. A lot of the matte paintings were fabulous.
The acting was
some of
good.
the characters broke down or 3D characters broke down a little bit, but some of them looked really, really good that I liked. The acting was fine. I think it was jumping around that really hurt it. And the few things I've read, because I've tried to avoid spoilers, obviously, I think that's what most people were kind of really getting at. It's like it was hard to follow because of the way it jumped around, which we always praise shows like Watchmen that jumps around timeline-wise. And his Dark Materials, they have multiple timelines, but the edits and the way it's put together flow very well. Whereas in this, not quite as much. But again, I think it's because they were kind of rushing to try and get to this.
They needed the editor from the Dr. Manhattan episode from Watchmen.
But again, if the story needs you to go through X amount of material at this pace, the edits can't completely, for sure, save that, because it's just you're trying to cram in too much. The best example of complex editing that worked wonderfully was Inception, because have you seen Inception?
Yes.
That was such a complex movie as far as levels and characters that if everything wasn't edited together perfectly, it would have been unintelligible mess. And
Yeah.
as soon as I got out of the movie, I talked to my friend that works with Technicolor, and he and I were talking about like, yeah, that was a marvel of storytelling and editing, especially.
Mm.
And this is maybe not on point to that exact same level, but I still find it enjoyable. I'm looking forward to, again, if I wasn't a fan of the material and didn't have some experience, would I be as positive? I don't know. But that being said, I know it's really hard to make a good movie. And it's probably even harder, if maybe the same, to make a really hard show. Yeah. The movies have more constraints on time, but there's a lot more mass as far as what you're telling in it.
I don't know. And
series.
then what's going to happen to the singing dude? Is he going to come back?
I think a lot of these characters, like they kind of hinted at it with Yennefer and Geralt, they just kind of, and like in real life, right? You kind of depart paths, and then you cross paths again at a later point in time. And I think that's just kind of how it kind of goes in that world, which I like. It's more natural. But it'll be interesting to see how season 2 kind of.
What do you think his wish was? Because mine's like they're like something, because they say destiny so much. Next time we watch this show, we need to take a shot every time they say destiny. We'll be like freaking wasted, man. They say it a lot. But
even that mom that wanted the girl's series, she's like, I feel like it's destiny that we were brought together.
But
be
Destiny said this, and then Destiny said this. I'm like, oh my gosh, slow down with the word destiny. Gosh,
so maybe it's like a religious thing. Is like they believe in destiny as like a power,
Mm-hmm. But like that's why I think his wish had something to do with like their destinies ever being entwined or entangled, or their paths always cross. Because after that, she's like, I've never walked into a Witcher, blah 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 blah, and then it's almost like stupid that she even decided to go with that knight on the little thing, and then they were so close to the battle, even though he was injured, and they were like going through the smoke, like she was really close to him where the battle was happening. You know what I mean? It's just like I wonder if they're always going to be crossing paths in every episode now.
Well, that seems to be a popular thing to do in series. I'm completely going to different material, but if you look at like Friends, they always had the Rachel and Ross thing, and they'd kind of work out and know them, and they'd break them apart. And they did that absolutely a few episodes ago. Like they're completely seen eye to eye, and then, oh, you wished for that, and it's like then they tear them apart. And I hate it when shows do that. It's funny. This is completely different, but I love in The Office how Pam and what's his name? Jim were just always, they had conflicts here and there, but they were just a steady, kind of relationship in there. They didn't toy with your emotions all the time as an audience. What I'm meaning is they weren't always just trying to like, no, just kidding.
Exactly.
No, just kidding. Like I hate that. And a lot of shows do that, and so hopefully they don't fall into that. Yeah, The Office did it right. But again, maybe this is the novels and they're going off the novels and they're just trying to stay true to that.
Do we know if Kyle's read the novels?
Yeah, Kyle, our expert. So let me give
Kyle.
a little bit of interesting background and current events in the story of The Witcher as well. So the author that wrote the books, right, the novels, he was at, I think I told in the last episode or last podcast, that he was at odds with CD Projekt Red who made the games, mostly because he felt like he deserved more money. So they offered him royalties based off the games, and he said, no, I have no faith that these are going to do well. And so he just said, I want money up front. And then the third game is spent. The first game didn't make that much money. The second game did a little bit better. Third game was a huge, like one of the best regarded games ever. And it made so much money that in Poland, they have a law that if you license your material and the people made so much money, you're entitled to more money. So he had a lawsuit going on with him, and they just, as this series on Netflix is rounding out, they reached a new agreement. So we might get more Witcher games in the future. So I think he was just bitter. But that being said, I imagine that with things going what he considered fan fiction for the games, I'd imagine he probably wanted the series on Netflix to have more in line with what his vision was, whether it's written or not. So they may be more tied to the novels, whether they want to make changes or not. I don't know this for sure, but
sometimes when a writer gets involved in a film,
it can be big problems.
You get the mess up stuff like you get from the new Harry Potter films. So J.K. Rowling's taken like a stronger stance in the Fantastic Beasts, where she's actually writing the scripts for the movie, and you can tell they're not as strong as her book being translated to film. You know what I mean? By directors. Like the third Harry Potter film is incredible, but it's like he's taking the material and he's visually putting it together. You know what I mean? It's like a whole thing, and they're putting it together with the writers and stuff. but sometimes when a book writer gets involved, I don't know if he is involved in the show at all, but if he really wanted like certain things in there and he's like, no, because he sees it in his head, because he sees it in his world and stuff. But to counter that, George R. R. Martin wrote a good amount of early episodes for Game of Thrones. And those are some of the strongest episodes too, because he did the dialogue. He just seems
like, I mean, some people, some authors cross over wonderfully to film. So one of my co-favorite book that I've ever read is The Beach. And by the way, the movie is nothing like the book, you guys. Don't think that Leonardo DiCaprio is what I'm talking about. But Alex Garland,
we know how much you love him.
Yeah, Alex Garland is the author's name, and he wrote a number of books, young author, and then he wrote some screenplays. Like one of the movies he wrote was Sunshine, that didn't have a great ending, but it had a really cool story. And then his directorial debut was that Ex Machina movie, where the AI, the artificial AI, very low budget, but it has was two of the guys in Star Wars, Isaac, whatever. Anyway, but it was great. And so he was clearly able to take his novels and translate them over into screenplays, and then he directed them. The guy from Game of Thrones probably has that skill set as well. If he,
I think he's written for shows in the past too, though.
Oh, okay, so he's done it before. Okay, J.K. Rowling or whatever her name is, maybe didn't have experience in that before, but that was stipulated in the contract. I'm just completely guessing on the novels.
She can do whatever she wants
for The Witcher.
Though. She
but for The Witcher, I have no idea. He might have had
we could do Harry Potter all day. I know the Harry Potter lore pretty well, so.
But so there might have been stipulation that he had some creative input, but I have no idea. But I guess it really comes down to, I don't know how closely they're following the novels. But to your point though, in Harry Potter, she didn't have those rights, and then with Fantastic Beasts, that was part of the deal, right? I
mean, she was pretty firm with the Harry Potter stuff, like because I know Disney was gonna do it, and then Disney said no, and she's like no. She wanted to go with the whole like British acting thing, because like they have a good like balance with schooling and acting and how they treat young actors and stuff
interesting.
Like that. So she wanted to go that route. She wasn't even entirely happy with their casting choices at first, because she's like, they all look too beautiful. It's like in her head, like they didn't look as beautiful as the characters were. But she was very like, once she met them, like the kids, like she knew right away she was the perfect choice for Hermione and Ron. Like she knew, like, okay, this
interesting, because one thing I liked about the Harry Potter, I'm not as huge of a Harry Potter fan as Nick, as I like them, but I haven't seen them nearly as much. One thing, we'll circle this back to Witcher, of course, but one thing I didn't really. I didn't think they were super beautiful. They looked like kids. They were good looking kids, but like, Ron, I mean, he was just like, kind of a redheaded, kind of homely looking kid.
I think she was talking about Daniel Radcliffe and Hermione.
And I mean, he looked like a regular kid. He wore glasses and kind of looked nerdy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think in her head they were more like nerdy, or not nerdy, but like awkward looking. You know what I mean?
Because that is one of my biggest complaints about movies, is they cast people that are too pretty. And again, let's take this back to The Witcher. I feel like Yennefer looks a little bit too youthful, because I think at least in current times, it seems more popular to cast younger people. Like, if you look at all the soldiers and stuff, and aside from like kings and stuff, you don't see older people. They're all kind of younger.
Wasn't that armor stupid? I'm sorry. We started talking about, the stupid round dome armor and like the weird like leather metal chest plates of the army.
For who?
The guys that were attacking all the sorcerers.
Oh,
I was you really are these guys freaking straight out of Wizard of Oz? Oreo. It's just like they were just like the stupid like top dome. Like, who designed this helmet? This guy needs to be fired like immediately, because he has no sense in like the way armor even rests on a body. I was like, what is this? Like, they look like space balls. They have like the placement with the gray like material underneath. I'm like, these guys are the space balls. Like, I need to put a screenshot. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, a little bit. Maybe not exactly. You should put a screenshot. We'll put it in there. But so one thing that, speaking of armor, I thought was kind of a funny point is that Henry Cavill, is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
He lifted so much weight for this movie that when they did the fittings for all the costumes, he got too big and he kept ripping his costumes, so they kept having to remake him. Yeah,
I wish that happened to me when I put on a shirt in the morning.
Yeah, I know, but I thought he was a little bit maybe well, I don't know. He looked a little bit too bulk. Like, did you see any other characters that were near his amount of bulk and muscularity? I thought he was almost too big.
No, I even think he's so big that his arms look short because his muscles are so big, and I feel
Yeah,
like
he was always walking like this.
Yeah,
you know,
I feel like his arms were short just because like the muscles probably lift his arms up a little bit. I don't know. I was just like, but hey,
but
if I
think
had
I
that
was
body,
reading,
I wouldn't mind having.
I think
short
I was
arms.
reading an article that not only did he had he wanted his costumes to look a certain way. Like I think he wanted them very tight fitting, and then he put on more muscle, which is hilarious. It like it goes back to the Batman nipple suit. It's like, come on, you guys.
Yes.
like
Bring
the guy that was Robin in that movie
back,
paid
please.
more money to make his suit more muscular. It's like, come on, you guys, But so
That's
but,
where the budget went for the visual effects. I'm saying,
what, the steroids for him to lift weights?
the trainers. Like that dude from Silicon Valley, he got really fit. Have you seen that article at all? Like he posted up, but he's like the only reason why this is possible because the studio, I think it was Disney, because he's going to be in a Marvel movie, and he was like, the studio paid for my trainers and all this. He's like, this would not be possible unless I was paid to do this by the most powerful company in the world. Like people think like, oh, you can just get ripped like this. He's like, no, I had like 6 different trainers for every 6 hours of the day. You know what I mean? Like he was constantly being watched and monitored, and that's all he did for like months. Instead of doing other stuff, he just focused on his workout routine, where average people can't do that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's very common too, and this is not as mentioned quite as much, but it's very common if you're an actor or like a model, they will send you steroids in the mail. Like my friend that I wrestled with in high school and college, he's actually a model for a while, and his whole family just genetic freaks. Like they're just muscular naturally. And he was doing a photo shoot and he was getting signed, and they said, so what address should we send your supplements to? Steroids. And he goes, no, I'm natural. And they laughed. They go, sure. No, really, where should we send them? He's like, no, I'm really natural. They're like, oh, wait, you're serious? He's like, no, yeah, my whole family's like this, but it's very common, so, but if you're acting, why not? Like if you need to be Batman, if you need to be Superman,
I mean, if someone's going to pay for you to be super healthy, fit, and ripped, why not do it?
Take on all the steroids. Like, I mean, like,
oh,
Rock,
no, I wasn't talking about steroids. I was just talking about
no, I was talking about
steroids. They're bad for you.
But I mean, that is common in Hollywood.
Please consult your doctor before taking steroids and lifting. Don't take our advice. Please consult your doctor.
That's hilarious. But anyway, yeah. So you know what? I think season 2, if they take the feedback they've gotten, the negative feedback, and make the adjustments, I think this could be a very good series. And some of the things that my friends have read about it, they said, yeah, it's gotten bad critical reception, but people have said the series has a lot of potential. And now that they're maybe caught up to the point that they could take more time, what I would love is for Netflix to tell them like, hey, you have 3 more seasons. But based on how the season is doing,
and
they may
based
not
if
get that.
Netflix is going to be around for another 3 seasons.
Netflix has a very interesting road ahead for it. I mean, it's going to be very interesting in the next 2 to 3 years to see how they respond to all this growing competition. It's going to be very interesting. Because right now, right out the gate, they're fine. That's a rough go. Like how Amazon's Lord of the Rings Middle Earth thing goes could be a big thing as well.
I think it's going to do well though, because like the Marvelous Miss Maisel does really well on Amazon Prime.
Sorry,
the Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I don't know what that is.
And then The Boys. Oh my gosh, dude, have you watched The Boys? That's a must. Season 2 is going to be coming out pretty soon. Get on The Boys. We're gonna cover The Boys for you guys. It's a great show based off a comic book. It's amazing. If you haven't watched The Boys, you need to go on Amazon Prime and watch The Boys season 1. Probably one of the best shows this year by far.
Is season 2 coming up soon, or is it still a while away?
The trailer was already released, and it's so good. It basically makes fun of DC Comics and the Justice League and stuff, but in modern day, like if they had like PR directors. Like every time, like it's like if Flash runs over someone when they're running in the street because he's running so fast and
how funny!
Ring, they have that press conference and Twitter.
So it's almost like a parody a little bit, yeah.
It is, but it's dark and it's good. It's like
cool,
it's good. Like it's mature. It's rated M. It's pretty gruesome and stuff, but so good. It's so good, John.
Well, that's the fun thing too that this. And thank you guys, for the suggestions and also just kind of having us do episodes because. I wasn't really huge on series. Like I've always been a movie watcher, but like I would find my way to series eventually. Like I found my way to Game of Thrones 2 months before the whole thing ended, and
and then he watched it in a month, and he looked like a White Walker.
I watched 8 seasons in a month and a half, and then the same thing for Breaking Bad. I watched it when it was in its last season. That's my favorite piece of entertainment ever. But so I find my way to stuff. But as far as keeping up with the shows, unless I know they're ending and I get all kinds of recommendations to watch them, I usually don't. So this has been a great way for us. We're going to be revisiting a lot of like movies that we really like and things like, and stuff that Nick's seen that I haven't. We're going to kind of do back and forth, and then we get to talk about it on here. So those of you that watch this is fun because you guys are kind of enabling us to have this fun stuff so we can have these conversations. So it's a little bit longer episode than usual, but we've been kind of wrapping up the season as a whole as our thoughts. I'm really looking forward to season 2. Sounds like Nick's kind of on the wire here, but
I'll watch it because I love fantasy and I want it to get better. Like I'm all down for a better series. Like if someone listens to this and they can, listen to both of us, and if they can make changes and little things just to make the story better, or if the timing thing, I want to enjoy this show. I really do. And maybe that's why I'm so hard on it, because I want this show to do well, because I'm a big fan of fantasy, and I would love to see like dark elves or whatever, what other creatures they have in this world. Like I would love to go there. I've also would have loved to see it all CG, beautiful CG rendered and all that stuff. But like I'll take whatever I can get as long as the story's good. I love like those worlds that people create, and they can just create rules and structures in them. I can live in those rules.
And it is there because the games are obviously based off of the novels, and that ground map is there. It's just there's so much of it. I think they're having a hard time not rushing through it. So don't write it. If you guys like season 1, I think season 2 could very well be a better, superior season. If you didn't like season 1, I think season 2 could be the better one.
Let us know
and hopefully
in the comments down below if you think season 2 is going to be better than season 1.
I'm dying to get someone who's read the novels. So if you guys have read the novels, let us know. Is the series like the novels?
Yes.
Like if this series would have been great, I think I'd have jumped right in and started reading the Witcher books. But after this, I'm like, maybe I'll wait for just some more seasons.
It's so funny because it's the opposite. I want to start reading his Dark Materials because I love the show so much.
But you're loving the show. I mean, but I've been enjoying The Witcher, but not enough that I want to sit down and read the novels. But yeah, I want to
kind of read his Dark Materials. Are you
kind of? Yeah. I have a few things on my agenda of things that I want to read. I don't read as much as I have been, but this has been really fun. This has been really fun. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this kind of 3-part series. We could have just binged it all and do one episode, but I don't think that would have been fair for basically how many episodes? We had 8 episodes, so 8 hours of content in 1 episode. I don't think. Did we have 9 episodes?
No,
I don't think it was. 8. 8 hours would have been too much to cover in an episode. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of 3-part installment series.
Go back and watch the other ones too if you haven't watched them. They're fun.
I'll try and link that in the description so you guys can see.
We have like screenshots of the terrible VFX in episode 1.
Well, it's funny, and then the cool thing is having Nick and myself looking at this is I didn't catch some of the shots. He posted this. He's like, yeah, this whole army's running. They're not casting shadows. I'm like, that didn't happen. And then he posted a screenshot. I'm like, they're not casting shadows.
But the shot before they are. Oh, it's so frustrating.
And another interesting thing, you guys, we're kind of running along, but so Nick has been watching this on either his laptop or his computer monitor. And I've been watching everything except for the last 2 episodes on my TV. And computer monitors tend to not be as forgiving on content. And I was seeing all kinds of pixelization. I was seeing more kind of imperfections. That's not a knock on the cinematography. It's just the compression and the streaming and stuff like that. But so that'd be another interesting thing. If you guys how have you been watching this? Have you been watching this on your phone, on your monitors, on your TVs? Because everything looked fine on a TV, on like just a regular HD TV for me. But then when I was watching on my computer monitor, my 4K computer monitor, I was like, ooh, this doesn't look great. Now I don't have the 4K Netflix, which I think you have to pay extra for. So that might have been a difference because I was watching a 4K monitor, but I'm not getting the 4K Netflix.
But HBO looked fantastic. Like when I watch HBO shows on my laptop, it doesn't look bad at all.
Now, I don't know if you automatically get 4K with them, so maybe you were streaming at 4K, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see as we go through if that changes at all. But anyway,
and the Mandalorian looks good too on the laptop. Mandalorian looks
good. And you do have to pay extra for 4K on Disney Plus. So I think so. I might be wrong.
Fantastic.
No, actually I'm wrong. Sorry, I take that back.
Rewind.
But yeah, so it might just be the streaming bitrate quality for Netflix is lower than those guys. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Step it up, Netflix, if you want to stay in the game.
I have no idea. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining us in this 3-part series. Again, if you haven't seen the first 2 episodes, you want to see them, I'll link that down in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next series and on the next AsArt.